Well, it's Friday now, and it was -5 on Monday, and then it was 54 yesterday, which is Thursday if you're keeping track at home. And it rained all day yesterday, so most of the snow's gone, and now it's 30 again, so the ground is nice and frozen, which is pretty cool, because now we have no snow and frozen ground. Anyway, today we're gonna get started on swapping the new exhaust housing onto the S300. So we're going to shuffle the cars around. So let's start with a cold start. That's nice. That's nice. So the next thing we got to do is get this current downpipe adapter off because I'm going to have to make a new one with a different flange on the turbo side. And I figured this thing's been cut and welded and re-welded enough times. You know, let's just make a new one. So I got a new flange up here with a clamp from SDP, and I got a new downpipe side clamp and flange from Quadstar John. So I'm gonna rip this thing off of here, and we're gonna use that as a kind of almost like a template, if you will, to make the new one. So we're half an hour in. Turbo's off. There's the old exhaust housing. Go and compare it to the new one. There's the, what you call a super core. You can see it's a bit smaller, for sure. And see the outlet side, definitely smaller. That's all right. And they're both T4. But you can see no divider over here. So we're gonna, next thing I gotta do is, this is a T3, T4 adapter. Gotta cut these out, and because obviously having those there would defeat the purpose of it being an open scroll housing, so gotta keep going. So we got the center cut out of it. Got it ground down as good as it's gonna get. Pretty crazy to think that 8 cylinders of exhaust gas has to flow through that, but so time to put it back together. Got a couple tacks on the new downpipe guy. So now we're just gonna go and weld her out. So here's the new downpipe adapter. A little bit nicer than the last one, but the last one served me well for 4 years. Bunch of tack welds to make it look like a TIG. Whatever. Well, there's the new housing is installed. You can see I had to take about 3/4 of an inch out of the height of my elbow. But I got everything clamped into place. You can see we have a little partial clamp failure there, so I'll probably just have to keep an eye on that. I have other clamps, I just don't feel like changing it out right now if I don't have to. I'm gonna keep everything else going while I got daylight. So the next thing we gotta do is get the core of the turbo back into the housing. There it is. Plumbed, got the oil in, upper intake in, a couple changes I gotta make there, but we won't get into that just yet. So let's start it. Help if I unlock this thing. I don't know if it's gonna sound any different. I haven't had an open turbo on this thing, like a open scroll turbo, since the stock one. That doesn't really mean anything, but be interested to see if the exhaust note changes at all. So the goal of this was not necessarily to make more boost, it was to make boost happen faster. So this is going to be the first test drive, and we're going to see how it spools. For reference, it used to make about 3 psi at 2,000 RPM. So we're going to see. Sounds different. So I'm noticing a couple things. It'll make 20 psi at about 3/4 throttle. EGTs do seem to be slower to come up. I think the difference in noise can be attributed to it being an open scroll housing, and I also think I'm getting some turbo whistle out the exhaust, which I don't normally get. Usually on a 6.5 the exhaust is all V8 sound, and the intake side is where you get the whistle. But like you're going up a hill, 2,000 RPM, 5 psi, EGTs are probably about, I'd guess, 150 degrees cooler than they would have been on the old housing. It cleans up right away. And it makes 20 psi without really even pushing it that hard. I'm still planning on putting a drive pressure gauge on it, and I'll be interested to see where it's at relative to some of the other turbos that are out there. Of course, I was not able to test my old housing for drive pressure. I guess in theory it'd be easy enough to switch back to it for a day or two just to see what's going on there. But next step is we're going to get out on the highway, see how it does on a hill, and see what the cruising boost is. So on the old turbo housing, we saw about 1,200, 1,175, somewhere in there is the max. We're going to fuel up, go on the highway, and see what it does. Try and keep this part short, and I'm going to hope that the sun doesn't totally ruin the shot. This seems to be a good upgrade. It seems like EGTs are in check. Boost comes on earlier than before, but not so much that I'm worried about, you know, bottom end issues like having, you know, 10 psi at 2,000 or 15 psi, or, you know, I'm not worried about too much power down low. It still gives the truck a chance to get higher up into the power band and have the boost come on at that point. You know, it seems like it doesn't overboost. I was afraid that it was going to be making 25 or 30 pounds, and that's not what I'm after. I'm just after a quicker 20, and it seems that I've gotten there. You know, driving around, EGTs are 600-700, which is pretty much what I expected. It behaves a lot like the old whole set. I would say it now spools a little bit more quickly than the whole set, and I'd say the bottom end is a bit better, which is cool because I think previously I said that the top end was better, so now I think that this is a better setup than the old whole set, top to bottom, so to speak. I'm not affiliated with Boost Lab. That's just where I happen to get this housing from. You can also get them from AGP Turbo. I don't know if there's other vendors as well. Those were the two that I happened to find, but I don't know, runs good. I'm happy with it. One thing to just keep in mind is that now my total investment in this turbo is slightly over $1,000. It's probably like $1,050 or something. So point being is you can spec out a 362 SXE with a billet wheel and whatever housing you want for about the same money. So I would say if you find a used basic S300 and you want to slap a housing on it, go ahead and do it. If I were to do it over again, knowing that I would have spent this kind of money and not being in the financial position that I was in when I first had to buy the turbo, I probably would have taken more of a look at like a 362 SXE, which would be, this is a 60 cold side, 68 hot side. A 362 would be a 62 cold side and a 68 hot side, so theoretically it would spool pretty similarly, but with a billet wheel. The other thing too is that I'm now $200 away from a quad star turbo, and at that point you're getting something that is known to work, that there's specific tuning available for it. You know, and that's really up to you to decide if you want kind of like a DIY type project like this, where you kind of have to play around a little bit and figure out what works and what doesn't, or if you want something that's just bolt on and go, then I'd say the quad star rather is a better option. You know, if you want something that's easy, if you want something that you don't have to figure out, you know, and if you want something that works, that is known to work, you know, then the quad star is a very good option. So this will probably be it for S300 videos unless something drastic changes, but I'm happy with it. Seems to run good. So thanks for watching.